Hey guys, back with the Outer Circle, and in yesterday's episode I was speaking about the Legion Esoterrorist and then moved on to the jet bikes and then went off on a tangent talking about how people need to curb their spending habits. This I take really seriously as a topic, and I want to go into that a little bit more today because there's a little bit of confusion in the comments section based around what I was trying to get at. So, some people said, well, you don't speak for the whole community or whatever. No. The point I was trying to make in the video, rightly or wrongly, is that no matter what Games Workshop brings out, no matter how good or bad the release is, people will buy it because they lack self-control. This is a huge problem. Now, this is not to be confused with people who are just collectors, okay? And they don't care about the content of the models. It doesn't matter for people who are buying the models based on gameplay purposes. Where it matters is when people are going out and wasting their money on something they don't need. That's the key difference. You collect a tank army. It's all about tanks, for example. And you just randomly go out and you decide to buy some recon marines that don't fit into your force organization slot. You're not planning on making an army that's actually going to utilize them. You just thought the models were cool, went out, bought them, and then realized later on you couldn't actually utilize them. That's where people go wrong. And it used to be a point in the community that the pile of shame was exactly that. It was a pile of shame. Here's stuff I bought, I wasted my money on, and I should be working on, but I'm not. And instead, it's become a point of pride or some sort of nerd cred to have a big pile of shame. And again, it doesn't matter to me whether you do this or not. What concerns me is the effect on those around the person doing this. Because there are many adults who are incapable of self-regulation. And this is what I see as a huge, fundamental, underlying problem in the hobby. And as I said yesterday, it is not exclusive to Games Workshop. However, Games Workshop does go out of their way to exploit this behavior in people. And this is not, I want to really state this clearly because someone might complain about it. This is not to say Games Workshop is the bad guy here. No, the bad guy here is people with the lack of willpower. Because the sort of stories that you hear are really heartbreaking. There was a story that Liam, who's been a guest of the channel several times, a fantastic bloke, was telling me about a guy who would buy models and then a couple of days later would come into the store trying to refund them or exchange them because he didn't have enough money to buy a juice for his daughter. Like a little bottle of juice. Fruit juice for a kid to drink. Because people get so caught up in the hype, they'll come into the store and they will just spend money. How many times have you gone onto some sort of forum or page and a person is just really excited about their new miniatures and they like to display their purchasing power? They don't display, their fully painted army. They'll display 50 boxes, still wrapped in cellophane, of unpainted, unbuilt miniatures they've just purchased. It's like, what, we're supposed to applaud you for the act of going out and buying something? If I go to Kmart later and buy a t-shirt, do I just put a picture of like the t-shirt on a coat hanger up and be like, check it out, bought a t-shirt, guys? And then, I don't know, I get likes for that in the comments? I don't know. It's very weird behavior that we've fallen into in the hobby, and I don't think it's healthy. That's why it concerns me so much. We should be buying the things in our hobby that directly benefit us. Okay, if you want to buy something for a painting project, or like I said, you're a model collector, you love having new models in your collection, it doesn't matter what they are, the fact is they're like Pokemon, you want to catch them all. Fine, those are different criteria. Okay? But when you start sacrificing the actual essentials you need in your life, it becomes a problem, like any addiction. Okay, and this community, more than many other communities, hate me or not for saying this, has a lot of people who have unhealthy mental outlooks. And like many other things, this concerns me. So what might be an unhealthy mental outlook within this community? Well, we have a lot of antisocial or poorly socialized people in the Warhammer hobby space. Why is this? Well, we're a hobby that kind of encourages it. This is a nerdy hobby. It naturally appeals to those who are sort of social outcasts or social rejects. Where do you think the stereotype of the fat, smelly wargamer came from? Okay, it didn't just conjure itself out of thin air. It has a basis in reality. And then you're taking these people who lack acceptance in their life, and we tell them you will gain acceptance from purchasing this product. Who thinks that's a recipe for disaster? Because I think that's an unhealthy recipe for disaster right there. Because now the person is identifying success in their life with purchasing in this hobby and acceptance in this hobby. And these same people are going to sit there when you do bring up a valid critique or criticism and say to you, well, no, that doesn't count, because they're not taking that as the valid critique that it is of something like, say, a bad Games Workshop business practice. They take it as a personal attack on them because they are finding that the brand is representative of them as a personality, and they fear that damage to the brand is damage to them as a person. Now, I can't prove all of this, but I think most of us can sort of see that. We can visualize that with our own eyes. We've met these people in our local communities, in different wargaming environments. People who, they're nice people a lot of the time. They're a little bit weird, they have personality quirks or such, and they just want a friend. They want acceptance, and this gives them common grounding with strangers they might not otherwise have. A lot of these people were never going to be great sportsmen, for example, for whatever reason. So they can't just go down and join the local footy team because, they could be self-conscious. They're a quieter person. Maybe they've got great book smarts, but they just lack those social skills. Whatever it might be, this hobby gives them a foot in the door. And one of the other unhealthy things I've noticed that's become really prevalent in this hobby, and to a degree in society in general, take this as a political thing if you want, I don't care, is that we are willing to make accommodations for people that will upset 99 out of 100 people to make one person happy. And I think that's incredibly unhealthy. So, for example, you have a group and a person says, I don't think that showcasing Dark Eldar slave harems in here is helpful. I think that's disrespectful and distasteful. They eliminate the fact that it's a fantasy game set in a science fiction world and it's all make-believe. They remove all of that from the equation, and they try and bring some sort of politics in. Oh, well, it's violence against women, da da da. And the rest of the group is sitting there going, really? It's just a game, just have fun with it. Yeah, okay, the Dark Eldar have slave harems, it's funny, let's move on. Obviously it can be taken too far, but it's when they bring it in over nothing, and then the admins will turn around in the group and say, alright, fine, well now we're going to change the group rules to keep this person happy. Why? Why do you need to keep that one person happy? We once upon a time used to subscribe to the old Star Trek concept of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Well, we've inverted that on its head, and now it's the needs of that one special snowflake outweighs the needs of everyone else in the group. And you end up in funny situations where there'll be a group who's like, hey, I like this thing a certain way. And another person will come along, like myself, and be like, well, I think we need to change it, and here's my reasoning, and it won't actually affect you in any negative way to do so. And they'll go, no, I don't like that. So, for example, I say, hey, I think we need to release Demons of the Ruinstorm rules because, well, we don't have any Demons of the Ruinstorm rules at the moment in Horus Heresy, and Demons of the Ruinstorm players deserve to be able to play their armies, and models like this Esoterrorist here, well, they should be able to be used on the tabletop as well. And someone will sit there and argue with you and go, no, look, I'm happy with the game where it is. I don't need Demons of the Ruinstorm. You go, well, how the hell does it affect you? That's the situation flipped on its head, where it should be like, you're the individual here whose opinion doesn't mean jack, because this change is for the positive and it won't affect you in any way. Why are you fighting me on it? And yet it happens. So there's multiple horrible behaviors going on here. And to circle back to the sort of first topic I was talking about there in compulsive spending, it's like gambling, okay? People do it because they want a dopamine hit. As much as I mentioned the social aspect, how a certain breed of people often gets attracted to war games, all of that is very true. But look at the insidious nature of purchasing itself. When people go out and they buy something, it's a dopamine hit. It's a hit to the brain, that adrenaline rush of, oh, I feel good because I purchased something. I've got a new thing. Wow, it feels good to have something, right? That chemical reaction that goes on inside your body, of those hormones flooding into your brain, is very, very strong. And that combined with the fact that you have to use your own willpower to stop yourself from doing that is a huge thing. Okay, and that's why I preach to people, wait a week on it. I mean, Games Workshop, as I said, their business practices, not keeping crap in stock and things just selling out straight away, that does tie into FOMO, the fear of missing out, and it's extra incentive to people who are already compulsive spenders to spend more. The amount of times that I've gone to a local hobby shop and a new army's come out, I see a guy get that army, and then next time I'm in there, I see him like, hey, how's that army traveling? He's like, oh, I stopped that project. I'm working on something else. It's like, well, why'd you buy it in the first place? You know, oh, it looked really cool at the time. You know, I'll probably get back to it one day. It's not good, is it now? Surely you can agree on that. Also, there was a person who mentioned, this is a personal note, by the way, that I'll finish the video on. He said, Macca, or not Macca, but he said in the comments, the irony of a fat person telling people to have willpower or self-control. I'm not really that fat. I'm very solid. Big burn, bam. But do remember, I have pretty much no cartilage left in my knees. I have torn anterior cruciate and posterior cruciate ligaments in my knees because I was in the Army and Army Special Forces, and I had the willpower. I went and I did those things, and I passed those things, and I got my qualifications. I did that job for 7 years. I had the personal willpower and fortitude to do those activities, and it took a toll on my body. And unfortunately, that toll has led to me being a little bit more plump than I used to be. In fact, I would like to be about 15 to 20 kilos lighter than I am to be back at that sort of fitness level I was at in my early 20s. However, in my mid-30s, with two completely stuffed knees and a bad back and all the things that everyone who's been in the military would understand, as well as a lifetime in trades and working on tools, that has an impact. So I don't think the comment was very constructive or helpful, but for those who are curious about me, my career, and my conditions, there you go. There's a little background info for you. Anyway, in fact, for those who are really curious, I actually passed my Special Forces fitness assessment for the deployment with a dislocated knee. So I'm quite capable of pushing through pain to an extent, but willpower is only going to get you so far when you're causing more and more damage to your body because you're not letting it rest up. And if there's one bit of advice I can give you about your physical body today, it's to listen to it. When you are injured, try not to push through the injury because you'll probably make it worse. In the military especially, and in sports teams, you try and push through an injury because you want to put on a brave face and you don't want to let the team around you down. But in the end, you only hurt yourself, and that will cause you problems mentally, trust me. And when it comes to mental health, do not try and seek a remedy to your mental woes, to your self-doubt, to your feelings of insecurity with physical possessions. That will only lead you to failure. I'm telling you that right now. I'm not a trained psychologist or anything like that, so this is not medical advice, disclaimer, yada yada. Do not try and replace the void in your life, especially an emotional void, with physical purchases. You cannot fill the void with things like that. You need the proper emotional support. And I will help people wherever I can in that regard. If you come and talk to me, I'm a pretty open guy. I will always try and respond to people where I can. But even if I can't, get in the comments, there are other people there who will probably be willing to talk to you. And yeah, YouTube can be a toxic place. The whole internet can. But you know what? It can also be a helpful place. You can find people who are willing to confide in you, or willing to just at least listen to you, hear you out on your problems. And hell, at the very least, you're going to scream your problems into the void that you've been bottling up and keeping to yourself. That's probably a far more healthy thing to do than to go out and bulk purchase some plastic because you're looking to acceptance into a community. Anyway, that's it. I'm back with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching this episode, and I'll catch you all on a hopefully much more fun episode. See you then.